Good day, and welcome to episode 2 of Music is a Journey. Cue the music!
I'm driving my old rusty Chevy to the border in my head. Said I'm driving my old rusty Chevy to the border in my head. Why not have with you? But my Chevy is new.
Right, so this is episode 2 of Music is a Journey. In episode 1, I introduced Colin Tench, the remarkable English guitarist who very tragically passed away at the end of last year. And in episode 2 and the next few episodes, I want to introduce some of the remarkable musicians with whom he played in Corvus Stone Colin Tench project, as well as some other musicians who have collaborated with those musicians. So today I'm going to start off by talking about Finnish bass player Petri Lindstrom. Okay, Petri Lindstrom, also going by the name of Petri Lindstrom. Wasn't there another famous bass player named Lemmy? Petri Lindstrom, from Finland. Now, as a Canadian, I can tell you there's one thing that we know about Finns. And that is that Finns can play hockey. Now, I don't know if Petri can play hockey, but I know one thing's for sure, he can play bass. Now, it's been said a number of times that Petri Lindstrom is Finland's best bassist. And I would also say that he's probably Finland's busiest bassist. First of all, he has his own band, one of his own bands. I believe it's Progeland? Okay, I'm not 100% sure of the pronunciation, but this is one of the bands that he's in. This band has one album so far, and as well as a single. They are still active. I believe they are still recording for a second album. And this band here reminds me a lot of classic Uriah Heep, especially from the Demons and Wizards period. So let's take a listen to one of the tracks off the first album here, Gate to Fulfilled Fantasies.
To prepare the sails, your prayers have been heard. You have to gather your strength, and there is someone who needs your help. It's time to prepare the sails, your prayers have been heard. You have to gather your strength, don't you dare to die on me.
Okay, aside from that, Petri is also involved in a death metal band called Saturn Twilight, and another band which I'm not even going to begin to pronounce, but the name looks like this. This has been described to me as a cult metal band. He's also in a new project with Pasi Koivu, who was the keyboard player for Corvus Stone and also one of the main composers. And that band project is called Walmari. Now, when Pasi first posted on his Facebook page that he was employed at Walmari, I misunderstood. I thought he was employed at Walmart. And I wondered why he would be so proud to tell us about that. But no, Walmari includes Pasi Koivu and Petri Lindstrom. And Pasi said it's kind of a continuation of where Corvus Stone was going, or what they were doing. Obviously, without their remarkable guitarist. So, he's involved in that, and he also is doing his own project. Petri is, not Pasi. Pasi has his own stuff too, he has his own albums. But Petri did the Petri Lindstrom project. His first album came out last year, Hail to Sabbath, and as you can expect, this is very much a Black Sabbath sounding album. But interestingly, while it sounds very much as you would expect Black Sabbath to sound, My impression is this is more Black Sabbath's late 80s, early 90s sound as opposed to their classic early 70s sound. Now that might actually sound like a derogatory comment to some, but I mean this in a very positive way. This is a very good album of 7 tracks, and let's take a listen to one of those tracks right now.
We'll save you, they own you, just agree, they love you, they'll praise you, no one cares what's on your mind.
Okay, now Petri has also been involved in at least one other project that I can think of in recent years, and this is a band project called Voice of the Enslaved. Now, for Petri Lindstrom's Hail to Sabbath album, Petri asked Blake Carpenter, who also sang on Corvus Stone albums. He asked Blake Carpenter to do the vocals for this, and so Blake Carpenter, Voice of the Enslaved is his project, he asked Petri to play bass on this. Now this is Blake Carpenter's project, so I want to first introduce Petri's bass playing on this track here, Apocalypse Now. Okay, and that brings us to our next person to feature, vocalist, multi-instrumentalist, American Blake Carpenter, who, as I mentioned, was invited to sing on some Corvus Stone tracks. So, of course, through his connection with Colin, Blake asked Colin to play on his Minstrel's Ghost album, The Road to Avalon. This was the second album in the Minstrel's Ghost catalog, and as I understand, a third album is in the works. When Blake's original guitarist either quit or was fired or just simply got busy with other projects, Blake then asked Colin to come in and perform on this. This is a concept album telling the story of King Arthur. And before you roll your eyes and go, not another King Arthur album, my gosh, let me tell you that this is actually a very well done album. And I'm not the only one to think so. Some of the reviewers on Prog Archives have also said that this was surprisingly very well done. And I think part of it is the King Arthur story is not made out to be this big dramatic production, although there are some sound effects with battles and swords and horses. It's done very tastefully, and the music is really beautiful. Of course, there's Colin Tench's guitar playing. Blake has, of course, composed most of the music and does some of the keyboards. Marco Chiappini, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, an Italian keyboard player, is also on here. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the drummer's name because I'm going to totally bung it up. I think his first name is Zoltan. I can get that one. I do highly recommend checking out this album. Look at this wonderful thing here that opens up. And I'd like to, it was hard to choose which song to feature, so I'd actually like to feature 2 songs. So please listen a little bit here now to, gosh, I have to check the track listing. Yes, The Journey Begins, the Avalon Overture, and also Merlin, the 3rd track. So we have Blake Carpenter singing on Petri Lindstrom's Hail to Sabbath, his own band, the Minstrel's Ghost, also voice of the Enslaved. And let's just go back to this album one more time, and I'd like to play you a short clip of one of the tracks from this one.
There were days not so long ago when we could think with our own minds, but in time we fell weak into it too. Our future to see, set in the stage, total control. Be told what we are to know.
Okay, on the subject of Blake Carpenter, there's one other band project I'd like to mention. He was also the vocalist on Coalition, which is basically Steve Gresswell's band project. However, we're going to talk about Steve Gresswell in episode 3. So now let's move along and let's talk about Andres Guazzelli. Andres Guazzelli is an Argentinian composer. He sang on one Corvus Stone track. He also did some composition and keyboards for the Ocean's 5 album, Andy John Bradford's Ocean's 5, which also featured Colin Tench. He has been working on an album called Wodan, if I'm getting that pronunciation correctly, but that project is currently on hold as he is now working on World Citizen, a new album, and he's already released one track from that, actually a dedication or an inspiration from Colin Tench, his friendship with Colin Tench. And talking about those two, they did something together. Andres composed a 12-minute piece called Wish You Could Hear, and he asked Colin to contribute the lead guitar. So since I have that one as a digital download, let you listen to a 30-second clip from that track. Alright, so if there is any other news about Andres Guazzelli, you can check it out. I will put a link in the comments to his new album project, World Citizen. And then let's move along to Stef Flaming of Murky Red. Stef Flaming is a Belgian musician, guitar player, keyboard player, bass player, songwriter, singer, and I find him to be quite a remarkable character in this bunch. Okay, so I'm saying remarkable a lot because I'm trying not to say amazing, which has been overkilled recently. But let me just give you very high remarks, high points going to Stef Flaming. Alright, how do I know about Stef? Well, first of all, I heard him sing on Corvus Stone 2 on a track called Boots for Hire. And that was the first track with vocals. When I heard his voice, I thought, who is this guy? I had this image of this kind of leather-skinned cowboy type, you know, spitting, chewing tobacco and not really giving a damn, but somehow still being the kind of guy you want to hang out with. Anyway, Stef has that quality to his voice, and he has his own band called Murky Red. This is their first album, Time Doesn't Matter, and they have a second one, No Pocus Without Hocus. The sound can probably best be described as a stoner rock meets Pink Floyd with some progressive bits mixed in as well. Very interesting music. The first album has a lot of good tracks which I enjoy. The opening to this video was a track from this album, Last Chance Hotel. And I'd like to let you hear the Murky Red version of Boots for Hire, because it is originally a Murky Red song, which then Corvus covered for their second album. So let's just listen to a little bit of Boots for Hire now.
Dust and fire, dark room combat, boots for hire, instant panic halfway down, touch the earth and wear the crown.
One of the things I love about Stef is his songwriting. His lyrics are the kind of lyrics that make you think that somebody must be high to write them, and yet I think Stef is probably quite sober. Aren't you, Stef? When you write these. There's a song on the second album here called Mermaids, and I think the song begins like, I'm talking to a stone that I met on Marshall Street. He claims he's made of gold, but I'm thirsty from the heat. Something like that. And later on there's a lyric that says, so clean your boots with mud and grow a beard or two. What? Great, great. Another song here, A Wooden Groove, starts off with vocals, but shortly after that, Stef announces the remainder of the song will be strictly instrumental. And true enough it is. And you know, true to his word. He told us that. Pixelated Friends, the opening tracks. The opening track, I smoked all my hashtags with some pixelated friends. Really incredible imagery coming out in his lyrics. So that is a strong point and highly recommended reason for listening to No Hocus Without Pocus. I mean, Murky Red. So let's take a listen to... Oh, let's just pick a random track on here. How about Mermaids? Let's listen to a little bit of Mermaids from this album.
So clean your boots with mud and grow a beard or two while you wish me well. Baby, wish me well.
Okay, so Stef has told me that Murky Red is also working on a new track, which is a track making a statement against violence against women and also women's rights and equality for women and so on. And it is not an outright feminist track because Stef is a man, so I mean he's coming at it from a man's perspective, but standing up for women. He also has some of his own stuff going on, and he was also in a project with Colin Tench called Transmission Rails, and a third member, John Mulder. They recorded 2 tracks, but after that things kind of stopped. I guess both of them just got busy, or all 3 of them. He has also been working on a tribute track to Colin Tench, so we're hopefully going to hear more from Stef Flaming and Murky Red. Now that brings us to our last person to talk about, and gosh by golly, I have no CDs, but let me tell you about Gordo Bennett. Gordo Bennett is an American guitarist and an orchestral composer, and I don't mean he works with real orchestras. He does everything on music software, but he does incredible stuff. And how I got to know about him was, well, basically through Facebook as a friend of Colin's, but he and Colin were both working in the United Progressive Fraternity. This is a music program, a music group that incorporates the contributions from many different artists to a kind of core group. And both Gordo and Colin were part of this. So they became friends that way. And Colin posted on YouTube one of his latest compositions for the first Colin Tench Project album, a piece called The Sad Brazilian. And Gordo he heard this and immediately was inspired to write some orchestration to go with it. So he nicked the music, he downloaded it, he composed his parts, he added it to it, and then he sent it to Colin with a little note saying, "I know I shouldn't have done this, however, what do you think?" And Colin was blown away, and immediately Gordo was asked to join the Colin Tench project. And so Gordo does nearly all of the orchestration on the first album. The first track, the orchestration, is actually done by Steve Gresswell, whom we will talk about in episode 3. But yeah, Gordo does all the rest of it, and as well all the orchestration for Minor Masterpiece. And I did point out at least twice in episode 1 some of his fantastic work. So let's talk about some of Gordo's other projects. Now, he has a lot of stuff going on. He's been involved in many things. I have a list here of... no, that's not it. Here it is. This is a list of some of the other things that Gordo has been doing. He was involved in a project called Dog and the Universe of Swine Dirt. Gordo! Anyway, yeah, it was an album called One or the Whole, and he did the orchestration for the title track. He also did some work with musician Joshua Leibowitz, and he was also involved in Band of Rain, contributing a guitar track for one of their songs on their latest album, Dust of Stars, which just came out last year. I will talk about that in a future episode. Gordo himself, he has his own music project called GorMusik. And in, I think it was 2015, he released his first album of songs as a digital download called Fun in Outer Space. And right now I'd like to introduce to you some of the music from Fun in Outer Space. So please listen to 2 different clips. GorMusik. There is more work coming from GorMusik. Gordo is working on a concept album called Progtopolis. This has, I think it's a 25-minute plus track, which is just the kind of thing to get prog fans feeling moist. Moist. Under the armpits when they hear 25-minute epic track. Also, he has another album for GorMusik coming out, and he's working on a project called Gore Fusion with bass player Joe Serwanowski. Well, hello, this is my cat. Joe Serwanowski and Gordo released one track last year called Waxed Apples, and I have to drop in a little note that I did the artwork for that, and I'm also working on the artwork for an upcoming release. I might have to ask the cat to leave for a moment. Excuse me. Oh, why not just bring animals into the video? This is Kurama. This is my cat. He usually doesn't like to sit on laps, but he likes to go up on tables. So, the latest track, thanks for that, called Moonwink, is going to be released pretty soon. Kurama, please don't knock anything valuable on the floor. I might have to ask you to go down again. He wants to look out the window. I think I'll just move some of the decoration here. Okay, so we agreed that Kurama had to go outside then. Anyway, talking about Gordo Bennett again. GorMusik, Gore Fusion with Joe Serwanowski on bass. There is also a Gore acoustic project, also Gordo Bennett and Joe Serwanowski. There might be a Gore electronic project, and Gore bluegrass. Now he's probably not going to go that far. Anyway, Gordo Bennett, great at orchestration, a mean guitar player who plays what he means. Let's take a look at a photo of Gordo Bennett now. What do you think? Doesn't he look like some pawn shop owner trying to ward off 3 drugged out crackheads from robbing his store? Let's take a look at a better picture of Gordo. There he is, that's the man. Wicked guitar player, as you heard already. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up this episode with a clip from Waxed Apples by Gore Fusion with Gordo Bennett and Joe Serwanowski. And watch out for their Moonwink release coming out soon. Next time, I will be back in episode 3, probably in a few weeks anyway. I don't know how long it's going to take. But I'm going to introduce more incredible musicians and their music. So, hope to see you then. Thanks for watching today.